Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be taking a look at a few new things. We have the new NATASHA Denona. This is the Hyper Natural Face Palette. So we have that. And then we have a couple of the new Tom Ford Slim lipsticks. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with swatches for the NATASHA Denona. First, let's start off with packaging. So you can see here we have our traditional NATASHA Denona packaging. We do have the magnetic closure. And on the back, we do have the holes in order to pop out the pans. So inside we have a full-size mirror and then we have the palette. Now I just wanted to show you, this is one of the midi palettes. This is the I Need a Nude. You can see, I thought they were gonna be the same size, but you can see that this face palette is actually smaller. So it is a little bit thinner and it's basically just smaller all around. So let's start off with the swatches. So in this palette, we have bronzer contour shades, blush shades, and then we have eye shades here. So let's go ahead and swatch everything. I do have a little bit of staining here. So we're gonna start a little bit lower down so that doesn't interfere. And I'm gonna put just kind of like a, gonna kind of brush out the swatch a bit on the side of my arm here. So this is our medium bronzer contour shade here. And then our deep one, you can see here right off the bat that these shades run a bit warm. So I was hoping with it being a bronzer contour, they'd run a little bit cooler. So we've got our light, our medium, and our deep bronzer contour shades. And our bronzers typically are going to run a bit warmer and contours supposed to run a little bit cooler. I feel like even if they are meant to be kind of bronzer and contour and you're kind of meaty in the middle, we're still on the warmer side. So these are gonna have a matte finish. And I have the lightest contour shade on right now, and you'll see that in the demo. Now for our blushes, we have a lighter pink and a deeper pink. You can see our light pink here. It's gonna be a very, very pale peachy pink. And it's gonna be, a soft pink, but it does have a little bit of a warmer undertone to it. Now our deeper pink here is going to be more vibrant, but again, I would say this is more neutral, but we do have a little bit of a warmer undertone in both of these overall. If you were to mix these together, this is our shade that you get. Obviously, because the deeper one is so much deeper, it's going to be predominantly the deeper shade. So those are the blushes. And then let's take a look at the eyeshadows here. So we have the first shade here is Everyday. And you can see it is going to be a really nice neutral brown. We do have a little bit of a golden hue to it, but it's pretty neutral. Next up, we have Dreamy. Now, if you spread this out, you get more of a champagne sparkle, but you can build it up and get something more opaque, like what you see in the swatch. Then we have a deeper brown, and this is going to be a nice, rich, cool brown. This is called Statement, and it's actually a really pretty brown. If you use a brush with these shades, they really sheer out to a very soft color. So they don't have to be as deep as these swatches. This one here is called Soft, and you can see it's going to be a warm pink with a little bit of orange in there. So actually, when the light hits it a certain way, you can see just a little bit of an orange reflect. And then last up, we have Casual. And I'm going to put Casual here on the side. But you can see Casual is gray. And when you build this up, you're going to get this nice smoky gray, the little bit of a bluish vibe to it when it's built up. But as you spread that out, you're actually getting brown. So it's like what we've seen with a lot of cream taupe shadows in the past, where when you build it up, you've got that cooler tone gray, but the undertones are going to be a warmer tone brown. So that's how it is with this particular shade, Casual. So if you want to get more of that brown hue, you can use a brush to kind of buff that in, and you're going to see more brown. Let's move on to the demos while we talk about this product. Now, the NATASHA Denona Hyper Natural Face Palette is taglined as the Do-It-All palette, and it features 3 bronze and contour shades with a natural matte finish. These have a creamy gel powder texture to them. They are really easy to use, but because they are kind of small pans there, you know, it's one big pan, but small divisions between the shades, it is easier to get the color with your finger. And if you want to use a brush, you might want to deposit it with a finger or a really small brush, because even, and you'll see this in the demo for today's cheek portion a little bit later on, but even using a brush like the SUQQU T11, which is fairly narrow and looks like it'll fit just fine in the pan, even then you're still getting a little bit of the shade next to it. So just something to note there. Then we have the two cream to powder blushes for a healthy flush. And those are going to be larger sizes. No issue getting a brush in there if you'd like to use that. They do go on nicely with a finger application for more pigmentation, but I think to really blend them out and get kind of a soft finish, a brush is your best option there. And then we have 4 eyeshadows in a new Hyper Silk formula and 1 sparkling topper with a sparkling wet effect finish. Now, these eyeshadows, this Hyper Silk formula, I have to say it's a really nice formula. If you want pigmentation and you want, you know, kind of a lot of color right off the bat, you definitely want to use a foam tip applicator or your finger for application. I do think that these shadows go on best with a finger. However, if you want a kind of a softer look, you can use a brush, and that's really going to kind of soften the shades, blends out beautifully. They feel like they have a creamy gel type texture to them, but they feel a little bit more firm than you might expect in the pan. So, you know, they're not one of those super creamy formulas that indent a lot or have a lot of air in them. So they feel very easy to use, very easy to blend out. But if you want, you know, that stronger pigmentation level, you definitely want to use a finger. The sparkling topper with the sparkling wet effect finish, that is, you know, I think that's a really beautiful shade. You can get kind of that scattered starlight effect if you use a brush on that, but if you want to build that up to, you know, something a little bit more opaque, you definitely want to use a finger for that. Now you can see in the demo for today's eye look that I first applied it with a finger, and you can see it looks a little bit chunkier that way. You've got more pieces kind of adhering to each other and so forth. So it has a chunkier finish if you use a finger. So you either want to go over that a lot, make that a bit more opaque, or, you know, if you're not looking for that, perhaps what I did was I used the brush to kind of just spread that out a little bit, and I love the effect. It doesn't change the color on your lid too much, but it gives a really nice scattered starlight kind of effect. Now, a few more details about the product itself. We have 12.8 grams of product and a 2-year shelf life here, and it is going to be made in Italy. Now, according to the NATASHA Denona, this is talc-free. You know, now, according to NATASHA Denona, this is actually the soft glam sister to the Glam Face palette. Now, I did have that palette in the past. It was too warm for me, and so I passed that on to a friend. But I would say I can definitely see how these would be related. This seems a little slightly cooler in tone than the Glam Face palette was, but again, we still have kind of that warmer base to the majority of the palette. So I do wish that there had been a couple of color stories with this, perhaps even just a cool and a warm, maybe like a deeper option. So that's my personal opinion on those, but I do feel like we have kind of a mix of cool and warm tones in here, but your face products in this palette primarily have a warmer base to them, whereas the eyeshadows, that's really where we're seeing more of the cooler tone shades, and it would be nice to have some warm and cool shades as options for all of the products. According to NATASHA Denona, each shade is named after a different mood or occasion and can be worn solo for a monochromatic look or layered for added dimension. All formulas in this everyday palette are mistake-proof and support the skin's ability to maintain its natural hydration, and is made for all skin tones. Yeah. So overall, I would have to say I think it is a nice face palette, and I do like the new Hyper Silk formula for the eyeshadows. I'm looking forward to seeing that in more of her products in the future, but It's not a favorite face palette because, as I mentioned, you know, I would like to see some cooler tones in the face products, but I do like how we have lighter and deeper options for everything, just so you can kind of blend and customize shades to suit you. But yeah, so those are kind of my thoughts. I think, you know, it's nice, but it's not an amazing palette. I do like the new Hyper Silk formula. I really like the eyeshadows that were included in here, but they are, you know, kind of your shades that pretty much everybody already has. So I like, though, the color options we have in here and the finishes. And I think the formula on these perform very nicely. So overall, it's a nice palette. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Tom Ford Slim lipsticks. So let's take a look at the Tom Ford Slim Lip Color Shine lipsticks. So you can see we do have slim packaging. I like that it's square so it doesn't roll off. Here is a standard Sharpie, just for size reference. And the circumference of this is basically the same width as, it's the same dimension as this lipstick case. So you can see the Sharpie's a little bit taller, but just for reference there. And why I wanted to highlight that is we really don't have a ton of product. So let's take a look at this. When you twist it all the way up, and this is all you're getting. This is maxed out. So it's pretty small. This is shade 100. The name of this is also 100. And let me just show you how much I've used of this so far. So I have worn this one once, and then I have swatched it once for a reel. So it was like several swatches. And then I also did like the lip demos for this as well. So I guess, you know, that's what, 3 to 4 uses maybe. And that's how much of the product is gone so far. So it is going to be a slim lipstick. We'll talk a little bit about the details in a minute. Let's take a look at the color. So this here is 100, and it's kind of like a cinnamon brown, but we do have a warmer base here. So when you kind of smear this out, smudge it out, you can actually see we have kind of like a little bit of orange in here. So when you shear that out, you are going to get kind of this warmer profile. So when you have this piled up, though, you get a little bit more brown cinnamon versus the orange. I have to say this shade 100 looks really nice with the NATASHA Denona palette, though, but my favorite of the two I picked up is this one, which is on my lips now. This is 153 Velvet Tux, and I just really like this shade. You can see that this is going to be kind of your reddish berry kind of shade with a little, you can see a little bit of a purple hue in there. Not much, but just a little bit of it, which makes it a little bit different. So I think it's a really pretty shade. This one's gonna be neutral leaning cool, whereas this is definitely going to be warm leaning a little neutral. So those are the two shades I picked up. Let's talk about the product while we look at the lip swatches. So this lipstick is made in Italy, and we have 0.9 grams of product. So not even a full gram, it's 0.03 ounces. So just something to note, we really don't have a ton of product for the price. And according to Tom Ford, it's sleek and discreet. This beautifully pigmented lipstick formula takes a stance of undiluted, patent polished glamour in a covetable stiletto slim case. Formulated with a unique combination of waxes and a rich emollient feel, creates a silky texture that glides, leaving a cushiony film of pure glowing color with extreme comfort. And it is formulated without drying alcohol, silicones, mineral oil, parabens, phthalates, petrolatum, formaldehyde, and donors, sulfates, sulfites, triclosan, triclocarbon, BHT, BHA, talc, peroxide, hydroquinone, and coal tar. So long list there. And I have to say, I think the texture of this, though, is very nice. So the first thing it actually reminds me of are the Chanel Rouge Allure L'Extrait lipsticks. So we'll take a look at just a couple of those briefly after we go through these lip swatches again. But texturally, you know, they have this very thin satin feel to your lips. And it doesn't have a super oily texture or a super waxy texture. We kind of have that nice kind of buttery medium. And I think they're really comfortable. Now, this isn't a one swipe lipstick in the sense that you're covering your entire lip with it. However, this has a very thin bullet, so that bullet can give you a precision. You could outline your lips with this and then kind of smack them together so you can more evenly distribute that lip color and get a little bit of a softer look. But really, just with one swipe, we're getting full pigmentation for this, even if you're just outlining and filling that in. These definitely are highly pigmented. And I purchased mine from Selfridges, but they are available at Neiman's and Bergdorf's as well. However, they don't have the full color line, so just something to note. Now, as you're looking at these, all of the shades are going to be a bit deep. They don't have any true light shades. Now, as for my thoughts on these, I have to say I do think these are overpriced for what you get. The bullet itself, if you were to use this every day, is not going to last very long. However, I do think that the formula is very nice. I like the formula a lot. And let's just take a quick look at one of the Chanel Rouge Allure L'Extrait. So the Chanel, you can see they are going to be a bit bigger overall. Obviously not taller, but they are going to be a little bit thicker. And then bullet wise, you can see the difference in the size here. So our Chanel is definitely going to be a bit larger overall in diameter. Now the Chanel, they are refillable, which is good and bad because you do have to kind of pull this out in order to see your color name. This one here that we're going to look at is number 857 Midnight Red. And I wanted to look at this one to see how this compared to Velvet Tux. So we're just going to swipe this on here. And I would have to say the formula between the two of these feel pretty similar. These two shades, they're actually pretty close to each other, but the Chanel's a little bit warmer. We've got a bit more red, where there's a little bit more berry in the Tom Ford. So formula-wise, I do feel like they both feel pretty comparable on the lips. Performance-wise is also very similar. You're going to get that high pigmentation level of color, and it will really leave a stain. So although you might not have full shine all day, you know, that top layer can definitely wear off. You are left with, you know, pigmentation and staining on your lips for pretty much the entire day. Now, the Chanel, as I mentioned, are similar. We have 0.07 ounces of product in there versus the 0.03 for the Tom Ford. The Tom Ford retails for $50 US, while the Chanel retails for $56 US. So it is definitely going to be a price difference there. I think the packaging for the Tom Ford is very chic. It is a click closure. I think they are a really nice formula, but unfortunately, I do think they are a bit overpriced for what it is that you get. So let me know your thoughts on the new Natasha Denona face palette and the Tom Ford Slim lipsticks. I'd love to know what you think about them. I think that these are both nice products, nice formulas, but for me, neither of these are a must-have. And I'd love to know what you think about them. So please share down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.